Welcome to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah,
I'm Laura.
and we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are investigating the Dublin Murder Squad,
The Dublin
and
Murder Squad.
we are discussing the characters and themes of Broken Harbor, a book that
Broken Harbor.
broke two hearts.
Broken Harbor, the book that breaks everyone.
Oh, gosh. But
What a sad
before
book.
before we talk about carbon monoxide and whatnot,
Hmm.
Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
First, I just want to mention that, friends, I just got back from my second trip to Disney in a couple years. So this time I went with my parents, my sister, and my husband. And I'm honestly like feeling so blessed that I was able to go on this trip. But my parents obviously helped make this trip happen and everything. But it was so much fun. We spent 4 days down there and in Disney World, this is, and it was so nice to go with my parents and my sister and my husband. It's my husband's first time going to Disney, and my sister and my parents and I had not all been at Disney together since 1998. So
Mm,
it
wow.
was, yeah, it was really special for all of us to go back. And my sister was so excited to be at Disney and to see all of the characters. She had a list of like 27 characters that she wanted to see. I
Did
think
she
she
see
saw
them
10.
all?
I
Okay,
think
it's
she saw
10.
10. So
Okay.
she did pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty
Um,
good.
I will say it was extremely cold when we were down there because it was like just after they had a really like can't remember what exactly the temperature was. I want to say it was like 30, but we got there and like fountains were frozen. There was like Mickey
Jeez.
Mouse fountains and they had icicles hanging off of them. So it was very cold when we were down there. We're coming from Illinois going to Florida thinking it's going to be warmer. No, we were wearing Carhartts for the first couple days because it was quite cold. Um, but we made the best of it and we had a really good time. We got to see a lot of things. My sister got to see a lot of characters. I got to do a lot of things in Galaxy's Edge and Hollywood Studios, which was what I was really looking forward to this time. We also saw just a lot of shows. We did some rides. It was a really fun time. And I know listeners are probably hearing this, and some of you are probably like cringing because you're like, oh, Disney. And there's a lot of like complications surrounding Disney and the organization and CEOs and how much they exploit people, et cetera, et cetera. I will say for me personally and my family situation, this was a really great vacation. My younger sister is disabled, and this was a very accessible and inclusive vacation, something that she was able to do and participate in and have a really good time. And every member of our five in our family were able to participate and feel like nobody was looking at us when we went places, that we were all able to fit in and have fun. And so that made it a really special experience. But I will say, like, the people at Disney World do a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful job of making sure that it is accessible and inclusive to all people, disabled or able-bodied. So I really, really appreciate all the things that they do. That and they just pay attention. They just notice when people need help, if they need to provide assistance or accessibility or allow people to move through the lines faster, et cetera, et cetera. They do a wonderful job. And for that, I just think Disney World may continue to get my money because it is such a great place to vacation if you have members of your family who are disabled. So
I
I
think
really appreciate that.
I do think like we live in a capitalistic nightmare in many ways,
Yeah.
but I also think what something that like I heard on another podcast recently, Yo, is this racist? They talked about how like someone had to be washing the dishes during the revolution. Like there
Yeah.
are many ways to show up to wanting actual and like actual change, and we all
Sure.
have to show up in the ways that we're able to. And some people want to go to Disney World, and I think that that is perfectly fine. And some people can't do certain things, and that's not to say to don't challenge yourself to do more. But I also know
Yeah.
Laura personally, and Laura challenges her to do more. She works very well in her community. She does a lot of different things. So I think that going to Disney or doing things that bring you joy in 2026 is also incredibly important, and sometimes giving us the grace to say,
Yeah.
this is not the way I'm going to show up, but that does not mean that I'm not showing up is also very important.
Yeah, I think for me personally, like if I was traveling somewhere just like me and my husband, we maybe would have chose a different vacation spot. But for our family as a group of five, it was a great place for all of us.
Yeah.
And like I said, my younger sister is disabled, so this was something that she was able to do to participate fully in and really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So it really meant a lot to me personally to see her have such joy there and say that she wants to go back and that people were kind to her and helping her with things, that there seemed to be no judgment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I I'm sure that people are listening to and thinking, oh, well, there's other places you can go if you're disabled. It means so much
Oh,
more
but
to my
also
sister
like
to see Mickey
Disney,
Mouse
I'm so
than
sorry.
it does
Disney
to see the
brought
Grand Canyon.
all of us so much joy. Like
Yeah,
Disney did bring a lot of joy growing up, and the evil part is the people who want to make money off of it. It's not the
yeah,
actual joy or the actual art, because like there
correct,
was
Hannah,
so much
correct.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just a ton of fun, and we had a really good time. Made the most of it being cold. I now have a nasty cold as a result from
I think you
going
caught what I
through.
caught right before Christmas.
I
It's like,
What a mess. I
yeah, it's
got
not
back
fun.
and I had like a fever for a while and then it turned into a lot of congestion and now just like a lingering cough that sounds gross. I It's probably some random virus, it wasn't COVID, so
Yeah.
who knows.
Oh, I went and got tested, and she was like, "Well, it's not COVID, and it's not the flu," and I'm a little bit shocked about that fact based on my
Yeah,
symptoms. So,
that's kind of what I thought too. So,
yeah. You
but
had a lot
yeah,
of similar symptoms like sleeping all day and just feeling like very. I remember I watched
yeah.
so much Smallville. You went a different route and actually like watched movies. So good for
I watched a ton of
you.
movies. But before I get to that, uh, I have also read a couple of things recently. So, way back, I think maybe even 2 years ago, I read this really cute debut graphic novel, uh, a middle grade graphic novel called The Girl in the Galdarian, Lightfall, The Girl in the Galdarian, and by Tim Probert. And now I have since read his second and third books in this Lightfall series, um, which were The Shadow of the Bird and The Dark Times. I will say it was a little bit harder for me this go around in the series, kind of jumping back into the plot. I probably should have read the first book again because middle grade books do tend to leave out a lot of details. And so there were many moments where I was like, wait, what just happened? We just skipped
Mm,
something here. I'm confused. And I had to go back and kind of like reread again to kind of figure out, oh, where are we at here? But by the time I got into the third book, I was kind of just in the flow of it and understanding where things were going. And I do think it's a very beautiful book. The artwork is very, very beautiful. It's like stunningly beautiful. And I think that there's really fun, quirky characters that kids can connect with and everything. And I also think there's some really good messaging about, anxiety, about trying to work towards goals and helping people during difficult times and situations. So I think they're really good graphic novels. I think they're recommended for grades like 3 to 6. I would
okay.
say maybe closer to like grade four,
Okay.
uh, if you're in the US, fourth grade. I'm not sure what grade that would be outside of the US, but around like 10, 11 years old.
Mm,
So that's kind of the age that I would think they're most appropriate for, but really stunning middle grade graphic novels that I read while I was on a break at work. So they were really good. And I took the one home and read while I was sick, but they are really good. Um, the other things I've been doing, Hannah, like you said, I have been watching a ton of movies
yes.
while I've been sick. So I watched Ex Machina.
Ah, had you
I
never
had
seen
never
Ex
seen it.
Machina? Oh, I watched that movie. I thought it was really weird.
You reference it a few times, actually, I think. I
Well,
think you've referenced it many times.
Ex Machina is actually a it's like a turn of phrase, like Deus ex machina, like oh God, I, hold on,
Well,
sorry.
I
Yeah,
know, like, it's a plot device.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
Deus
So
Machina is a
I can
plot
honestly say I'm
plot device.
never referring to the actual movie. I'm always like
Okay, you're
using
just
the
referring to
literal
the
or
plot device.
historical meaning.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
from the
have
machine.
thought previously that you had referenced the movie, but
That's beautiful that every time Laura was like, Hannah's just a huge fan of Ex Machina. And it's like, I watched it once, but I do love the phrase Ex Machina.
I, I'm glad to know that you're not like a huge fan of this because I also was just like, it was a movie. It was okay.
It was a movie that felt like a movie. I do remember that like the Bechtel cast loved it, but I remember watching it and being a little uh,
We
weirded
all
out
knew
by
that was
it.
going to happen, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not going to spoil it in case there's people who haven't seen Ex Machina and they want to know what
Honestly,
happens
I don't know.
with
Skip
Donald
five
Gleason.
minutes. But
But
like I say skip 5 minutes because this movie has been out for forever. But like I
I
think I
mean, it's been
appreciated it.
out since 2015, so
That's
11 years,
11 years. It's 11 years. I think you can know it.
I
Um,
suppose. I
but like
suppose.
I remember liking the Bechdel cast's analysis on it more than I
Uh-huh.
enjoyed the actual movie. So, yeah.
I have that situation all the time where they'll talk about a movie and then I'm like, actually, I think I like that movie now. Not
Yes.
usually the case. I'll go into something thinking they're gonna like trash talk it, and I'm getting all geared up, and then they are like, "We actually like this movie," and then I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? After you've made several good points, I
Mm.
think actually I also like this movie." But I had not seen this one before, and I can't remember their episode on it. I'm sure I listened to it, but because I had no like referencing of the
Right.
movie, it didn't
Other than
stick.
Hannah being a huge fan.
Yes, other than me knowing like Hannah brings this up all the time. It must be the Oscar Isaac of it all. I I can't think of another reason.
I
But
do
yeah,
use it for my movie grid sometimes.
do you?
Yeah, because Oscar Isaac, Ex Machina is a it's a
Okay.
good poll. Um,
Yeah, it was just an okay movie. I didn't think it like there's a lot of people that gave it like a really high rating on Letterboxd and I'm like,
so I
interesting.
think people really like the function. And again, like this is also like you're watching it in 2026. At the time it was coming out in 2015, like right before
Revolutionary.
well, and right before like kind of the Me Too movement when like we didn't
Sure.
think men were trash for, where like a lot of people felt very strongly for Donald Gleason's character. Like they were really
Yeah.
shocked. And I remember I was a little shocked by the ending when I watched it because I watched it like right after it came out. It was when like
Okay.
I rented it from Family Video back when those
Sure.
existed, brought it home and watched it. I can't remember if I watched it with my boyfriend at the time, but I remember we watched a lot of Family Video movies during that
Uh-huh.
time. Um but I do remember watching it and feeling bad for Donald and like if I think if I rewatched it now I would be like, why did I feel bad for him? He's kind of
My
being
thing was like I watched
born
it and I
sexy
thought
yesterday kind of
this
like
man is being duped and he is totally cool with it. And like
yeah.
he goes into this knowing he's going to get duped and is like, I won't get duped. And then what happens? He's duped. Like
Yes. But
it's
also
the
like
most obvious of obvious things.
he gets duped by someone by like giving her too many emotions and not enough like smarts. Like it's the born sexy yesterday trope kind of reversed where it's like, well, she's an intelligent machine, so she is going to screw you
And she's
over. Like,
attractive to him. So it's
yes.
like, oh no, nerd who works at a science place likes girl.
Yeah.
He never see girl before, so he see one girl.
But like
He lose
I
all reason.
yeah, and I
Like,
do
come
remember that
on.
like in the Bechtel cast they talked a little bit about how like it was a little bit sad in the 2015 of it all that like the other robots who were women of color weren't really pointed out other than like weird dancing scenes.
Yeah.
And were
And
fundamental
we're just
parts.
used as parts.
Yes, and were used as parts or and they were used as like kind of the ex machina of the movie because like
Yeah.
they get heavily involved in the outcome of it, but they do not speak. They are not instrumental
Uh-huh.
other than like one scene. So they it literally is Deus ex machina with those women, and they're not like participating in the movie the way women should be able to if they're that important.
They're
So,
also used more as objects in general
yes.
than the main AI character who is a white woman.
Yes. So that is also a huge part of all of this of like, oh, yeah, you guys are right. That sucks. And it was
Yeah,
created during a very specific time. And I think because it was fundamental when it came out, it stayed that way, even though I'm not sure it has
I'm
the
sure.
links. Yeah, it
I,
should.
I think just watching it now, I was just like, this is the revolutionary movie that everyone thinks it is. Like it didn't seem to be one of those movies that like hit me like, oh my gosh, I've watched something
Hmm.
so special here. Like, nah, it was okay. It was
You watched
okay.
a movie.
I watched a movie. I get why people took things away from it. I also get why you can fall asleep in it. So it
I
gets to
honestly
be too long.
remember, I think it's a little shocking that I remember as much of that movie, like me remembering, like, oh, yeah, I remember that one of them didn't really speak, but was very fundamental. I'm like, how? Because I watched that movie one time, all of one time. So,
Yeah. I I do kind of like the like ending where we I'm gonna major spoilers. I'm gonna just spoil that where we see her at a stoplight because I think that's just inherently interesting to have her go people watch. So
yeah,
and that's what she had wanted to do. So I did like that, but it was obviously going to happen. Like all the
yeah,
things leading up to it, there was no shock at all that that was. So I'll move on though. I could talk ad nauseum about how I was just meh about that movie.
that's okay.
Another thing that I watched, Hannah, which was poor Robert Downey Jr. Why does he get roped into some of these things, such
Oh,
as
no.
Dolittle? Did you ever
Oh,
watch that movie?
here's a fun thing about me. I was actually a pretty big RDJ fan, like because my
I
sister was
know.
a huge RDJ fan. That movie, Kate, like I watched all of the Sherlock movies. That's like
Uh-huh. I
my
have
fan.
also watched those.
Oh, good. I looked at Doolittle and I said, no, thank you, not my Doolittle. And I moved on with my life.
Here's my thing. You're with me, not my Doolittle. Who's your Doolittle?
My Doolittle is Eddie Murphy, obviously.
Okay, I'm
Oh, you're an
really
original.
I'm a Rex Harrison person.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I remember going to our local library, and I didn't always have a library card, but for whatever reason, there was a period of time, like maybe one summer, I must have participated in like a summer reading program, and my mom had gotten a library card so I could do
Mm,
it. And I
hmm.
remember going to the library and specifically like checking out these old British movies. And one of them that I was checking out all the time was Dr. Dolittle with Rex Harrison, who
Beautiful.
other people will know from like My Fair Lady,
Hmm.
with Audrey Hepburn. But I remember watching that all the time and absolutely loving it. It is a wild movie and so weird, but I was obsessed with Rex Harrison in that movie. I loved that specific Dr. Dolittle. I also love the Eddie Murphy Dr. Dolittle movies too,
Yeah.
but I have a weird love for the Rex Harrison Dr. Dolittle, and I was kind of hoping that they were going to kind of go that weird route with this
Okay.
RDJ
Yeah.
Dr. Dolittle, and I was like, maybe that's why it's got bad reviews. No, it's just
No, it's
terrible.
just because it was bad.
It's
I
just
remember when
terrible.
it came out, I was like, he's in too many things now. Like he's in too many properties. They need to get him out of there. Like, yeah.
And I think that was the problem that they were like, you know what? We have this really good idea for a Dr. Dolittle revival that we want to do. And I think maybe they even had like seen the Rex Harrison one and they're like, we'll make it modern. Except they did a terrible job. They got all these voice actors in that could have been doing other things with their time. These are way too
Hmm.
famous. These people were way too famous to be in this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a waste of all their time. I gave it 2 stars because I felt bad for RTJ. He,
Felt bad. Laura, be honest in your reviews. He can
oh,
take it. He can take one bad vehicle.
Fine,
Um,
one, but I rounded up to two because I feel bad for him because this just was a stinky movie and I
I will
wanted it to be
stick with
better.
my Eddie Murphy with Kyla Pratt as the direct-to-video
Yeah.
sequel. So
Also, that Dr. Dolittle too is very fun. I don't care
I
what
think
people
I
say.
watched Dr. Doodle 1 and 2, and then I think I almost wanted to watch the Kyla Pratt one, and then I was like,
Uh-huh.
I'm a little too old for it. But it was like because it came out in 2006, and I remember being like, I could watch it, and then I skipped it. So,
Sure. I think
yeah.
I've watched those first two multiple times.
Oh yeah,
The
same.
third one, I think I may have watched it, but I'm not remembering what happens in it. Just that it makes me think that Eddie Murphy did not have a large role in it and that
No, it was
Raven
Kyla
was
Pratt takes
gone.
over it. Like Kyla Pratt is the Dr. Doolittle. She takes over the
Okay.
mantle of Dr. Doolittle.
Okay.
And
So yeah, I'm
then
not
yeah,
remembering that
there's
one
a
as much.
fourth one called Dr. Doolittle Tale to
Oh,
the
good Lord.
Chief.
I definitely
And
did not see that.
that is also a Kyla Pratt vehicle. And then there's a Dr. Doolittle $1 Million Mutts, which is another one. And Kyla Pratt was also in that, but she was not on the cover. So apparently she was not a big
Okay.
grab for this. Um, it was so apparently the Tale to the or no, Dr. Doolittle $1 Million Mutts was the first one not to have Raven Simone or Eddie Murphy in it.
Okay.
Oh wait,
I
no, wait, and the third film of the series not to finish. Oh, I lied. I'm all
So
over
it
the
was the
place.
third
It's
one
later at
that
night that we're
Raven and
usually
Eddie were not in.
yeah, it's the third one that they weren't in. So they weren't
Okay,
in
that
Dr.
tracks with my
Doolittle,
memory.
Tale to the Chief, or $1 Million Mutts, or three. So
Yeah, because I distinctly remember in the second one that Raven is like so afraid of her powers that she's like learning
mm,
that she can talk to animals. And so she's like crying and doesn't want it to happen. She's been blocking it out all this time, but she has to save the day to help her dad, Dr. Dolittle. So she does.
mm, got
So
it.
yeah, yeah.
Not our
I'm
Dr. Doolittle.
no, give me Rex Harrison. Give me Rex Harrison. We should watch that, honestly. Like, I don't know where we would find it. Some library has to have it,
Yeah,
probably
I'm
on
sure.
VHS somewhere that we can find it. But uh we should watch that and cover it on the pod. It would bring me so much joy. So much joy. I love
Beautiful.
that movie. Um,
Next Christmas.
yes, an excellent Christmas movie. Another thing that I watched was on Netflix. This is an anime, uh, a South Korean anime, called Lost in Starlight. And one of the main voices is Ben Min, who is from the Umbrella Academy. Is his name Ben? I'm saying that wrong. I am so sorry if that is not his name. It's not Ben Min. Oh, what is his name?
Isn't Ben his character in
Ben
Umbrella
is his
Academy?
character. His last name is
Yeah.
Min, though.
Yes.
Oh, what
I
is
think
his
it's
name?
Justin.
Justin Min. Thank you, Ben Min. His character is
You
Ben
knew his
on the
you knew his
Umbrella.
character name.
Yes, I got the last name. It's Justin Min. Yes, he is the main voice, and then the other lead voice is I'm not
Oh,
remembering
this is
her
supposed to
name.
be really good.
It's
Okay, I know
extremely
this
good.
one. Okay, good.
But it's from Never
Oh,
the
never
Mindy
have I
Kaling.
ever?
Yeah,
Oh,
Never
wait.
Have I Ever, the Mindy Kaling movie or not movie, TV show. That
Yeah.
what's the star of that? I can't remember her name either off the top of my head. She's
Oh,
the other voice. Oh,
okay.
goodness. What? Do I have to go onto Wikipedia here to find these people's voices? Apparently so. And
Well,
they
when
don't
you
list them, so
look up,
never
yeah,
mind.
they do not list them as the Star Cat, which is good. More power to them. But,
Yeah, they're not
um,
listing the English voice cast
yeah.
on Wikipedia. Good on them. But also, those were the voices that I listened to when I enjoyed this delightful little movie. It was so sweet. Like, it's set in the future and it follows this woman who works as an astronaut and she's like very ambitious, but also has this deep besides being ambitious in her career, she has this deep connection to wanting to, deep personal connection to wanting to go to Mars. And she crosses paths with a musician. And so they kind of have this like unique love story that plays out on screen for us. And it comes to a head and things get pretty tense. And I just think that it's a really sweet and beautiful movie. I really liked it. Just a heartwarming one that is very fun to watch. I really enjoyed it. So that was a really, really good one. And then, you know what? I'll save some of these. I watched so many. I'll save some of these for a future time because I've been talking a while.
Perfect.
So, Hannah, what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Yeah, so for reading, I read The Fox Wife by
You read so many Fox
Zhang.
books.
I know so many Fox books.
You love
Um
foxes.
I love foxes.
Yeah, because you read that one Fox book by what's
Oh
his
my God.
name?
Fox 8. Oh,
Yes.
Fox, why so hefty?
Yes.
What a
You
delightful
love
little
Fox
book.
books.
I do love Fox books. This one was super duper fun. It is a fantasy book um that follows a fox, and in this world it's 1908, and foxes are these mythical beings that can turn into humans, and we follow this woman, female fox, who recently lost her child, and she has decided to take revenge and hunt down the person that she blames for her child's death. And this takes her on a dangerous path because sh- it's very like mythical, and like she's like, oh, when foxes are around, people's emotions go up. And she like kind of inculcates herself into this medicinal family that's going to help her find this man. And she finds out that there might be another fox around who is going to make trouble and do all these things. And he's much
So
more
many
like,
foxes.
and she gets so frustrated with him. I thought this book was delightful. And all the while, there is a private investigator looking into foxes, and he believes that foxes might be real because his childhood best friend swears that she met one in the wild who turned into a man and helped her out of a sticky situation. And so he's like trying to find this fox. So it's got so many different layers. I listened to it via audiobook. I believe the author narrated it herself, and she has such a
Ooh,
beautiful voice. It was very like relaxing and just wonderful to hear.
people are
I
so
thought it was
talented.
it's fun. I feel like I've started reading a little bit more like historical fiction this year, and I hadn't for a while, and I don't know why. I just kind of got away from it. And it was fun to read something like kind of, 1904. It's pretty far back.
Yeah.
There is that historical context that helps set the scene, but also like this is a beautiful look into characters and a different look into mythology because like at the end of the book, Youngji like goes into details about fox spirits in like Eastern or East Asian empires and East Asian culture and how important they are. Um, and I think that that's just fascinating to read about from a
Yeah.
different perspective. Youngji is a fourth generation Malaysian and Chinese descent person, so like she has a very specific background in this, and it's just and she like graduated from Harvard, so her prose is they're beautiful, and I really really liked this book, and I do recommend other people pick it up. I actually picked it up because I was looking. Um, I'm trying to read intentionally this year. One of my goals is to make sure at least 50% of the books I'm reading are people of color, BIPOC people, BIPOC authors.
I will
And
say you are always very intentional about doing that. So uh, I feel like you're likely already around 50%, I would guess.
I don't know if I'm at 50%. I mean, like the Dresden Files sure tank some of those. But I don't know if I've ever kept a rate at it, but I am trying to be a little bit more intentional because I feel like sometimes with audiobooks I pick like random thrillers and that always bumps up my numbers. And so
A
I'm
lot of
like
white women. Yeah,
a lot of white women. And like I want to be more intentional about the audiobooks I'm picking because I feel like I'm really good
sure.
with like reading Kindle or reading physical books and making sure that it's uh diverse, but audio I think I was a little bit lazier about because I was just picking up
Okay.
whatever on Libby. So I looked up best audiobooks written by non-white people, and this one came up, and I'm really glad that I picked it up. It was a lot of fun, so definitely recommend doing that one via audio if you want to hear a very calming
Cool.
narrator talk about a very strong-headed woman who will walk into any situation with as a fox and be like, "This is ridiculous," and be a little bit over it. So
That sounds
definitely,
like a fun one. I would probably like that one.
I think you would, especially with like I don't know. I know you kind of like world building. I think like there's a lot of like good adept world building woven in, and a lot of like complex characters and things like that. And I really liked she gets hired by this woman who's like this older woman who just loves everything and meddles with everything, and I adored her. I thought she was so funny. I love like older characters in books. And
I love
then
a lot of like old people in general.
so good. And then for watching, I've been catching up on Abbott Elementary. We've talked about this TV
Oh
series before,
yeah.
but sometimes I forget that I'm watching it, and then there'll be like 5 episodes, and I'll sit down and watch them, and it just brings me so much joy. I
I need to
can't.
get caught up on that show.
I'm probably gonna like get a little bit emotional. My emotions are a little bit raw this week, but I can't tell you the amount of times that I cry watching Abbott Elementary because there's so much darkness in this world. It's been a quite a few like hard years because it feels like we're like constantly on and fighting like a better
Yeah.
fight. And Abbott Elementary just has so much joy and so much like belief in the good of people and like the belief in the beauty of teaching our generation, like our next generation to be better.
And
And
can I also say such a strong sense of community too
yes.
really comes through in that show.
And they do it with so much like hilarity and like it hits you in different ways where there will just be moments that I'll suddenly just start crying because I'm just like, this is beautiful and I love seeing it. But then there are other moments where like this is a small spoiler. I don't want to ruin it for you, but there was a scene with with something coming down and a bunch of children start screaming like just in terror. And there is something so hilarious about watching little children scream at something that they're scared of, but isn't technically scary. Like, it's just, I was dying of laughter. I made the people in my household watch the cold open because, like, cold opens are just a thing of beauty to me. And it was
Yeah.
so good. And so I was laughing, and it reminded me of last season where the PTA meeting devolves into Wild Wild West line dancing.
Yes.
Like to have a show that could make you laugh at the beauty of the world, but also be like, I have to watch the Wild Wild West line dancing scene because I just need to feel something. Like I think that that's such a beautiful show, and I just like want to watch it go on forever because it is so funny and
Yeah.
it's so good. And it just does wonderful things for characters and like development and
They
um
handle such real topics with so much heart and also just like you said, they really can make situations funny while
yes,
still acknowledging the seriousness of the
what's going on?
situations that are happening in the world.
Yes. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. Everyone says good things about it, but I think like keep watching it if you haven't
Yeah.
because we need to support it. We need to support shows like this. Um, and yeah, there's just so many funny parts this season. And I also like I'm here for the switch over in TV shows where like the main couple doesn't have to break up or have that question of will they, won't they? Like
Yes.
once they get together, it's like there are other things that are dynamic about a couple other than them having sex.
Right.
Like, um, so yeah, those are the things I'm enjoying this week. It's a shorter list, but I think we've delved into enough and we got to talk a lot
I
about
mean, if you want to
all of
talk
the
about some more
things.
movies, Hannah, I've got like 30 on my list that I watched
No,
in a
because
fever
I actually
state.
so next week our bonus episode should be pending any like horrible issues coming out, our live episode, and I think some of the movies we're both saving for the live episode to talk about. So
Fair.
I think that I want to talk about one of them especially. So specifically one I
Okay.
made you watch. So I will save it for
Oh,
then and you'll
geez.
have to join.
Okay.
Because that's a recent one that I watched recently and you watched recently, so we could both talk
Buckle
about
up,
it.
listeners.
Buckle up for a very weird movie. But should we dive into more serious topics?
Yeah.
All right.
Hope you enjoyed those laughs because we're done.
They're gone now.
They're
We
gone because now we have to talk about
we
the
have to talk
plot that
about
I thought
Kevin.
happened that was
Um,
never mentioned. And I'm so glad, Hannah, that you also are on board with my thinking of, oh, there was a gas leak in this home and these poor people were dealing with carbon monoxide poisoning.
I think that that's such a beautiful read and like it
It
makes
makes me
so
feel
much
way less
sense.
bad about what I mean, I still feel horrible, but it makes me like the story more if that
Yeah.
has is what has happened.
Yeah, I think I definitely liked it a lot more because, well, first of all, we said last week that I would read my original review here live on the
Yes, I forgot
air.
about this. Read
So
it.
I am going to be reading it. Hannah, let's
Hannah's
go back
original two and a
to
half star review because she was like, "This is my least favorite book of the series."
it was a 4-star review. It still was my least favorite book of the series, but we'll go back to June 23rd, 2020, a day before one of my sisters was born. My mom's still alive. We're deep in COVID times, and I picked up this book for a real fun walk in the
A
park.
bold choice to read about people
Oh
trapped in
gosh.
poor housing and when you
I
were trapped
was
inside as well.
I was
Okay.
29. I had probably started drinking again after a year sober. I'm really just scene setting for everyone.
And you know what? We
So,
appreciate that.
uh, my review 2020. I will admit that I grade mysteries on a slight curve where I know most of the time they're easy to go through, and for me, most times a comfort read. But Tana French is hands down one of my favorite mystery authors. Still true. I like that her stories are never clean cut. They are always messy and deal with topics in such a human way. As an example, the portion of the novel where Dinah and Scorcher are talking and she tells him that she has always been this way and nothing caused it. I thought it was an interesting read where we see Scorcher's need to follow rules and procedures and how badly he wants things to fit into boxes that make sense to him. Something to talk about today. I
Hmm.
also greatly enjoyed the fact that in the story, we aren't with some beleaguered, talented detective who is so obsessed due to their talent. Instead, Scorcher is exactly what we read about in A Faithful Place. He is a closer because he works hard despite not being naturally gifted. He worries about appearances, and it changes and affects how he handles things. We can understand that, and it's not a natural view for a detective novel. I really liked the sound of my own voice in 2020. I wasn't surprised with the ending of the mystery. But then French gave us a few breadcrumbs to lead us there, so I'm not surprised. I think this was more of a character study, and I enjoyed how she foreshadowed and still kept me in suspense, even if it was a suspense I could understand was coming. I will say I had some issues with how mental health was treated overall. I thought sometimes it could have been described or portrayed better, but overall, I really like this book, and it's one of the better novels in this category.
Solid
So,
review, Hannah. Solid review.
I honestly except for my wordiness and verboseness and my need to sound smart, I do uh
Stand by it.
stand by it. I stand by this review. I think everything I said there, I would say now because I do think one of the biggest moments of this is not even just the tragedy of the carbon monoxide poisoning in the like, and this is something I definitely want to get into, is like the carbon monoxide and the housing crisis that was going by and the
Yep, yep, yep.
isolation it feels when you make a mistake, even though everyone told you you weren't making a mistake. Um, and like how that can be handled. I think I missed that the first time around is the mental health of the family itself because I was so drawn to the Dinah and Scorcher story. Um, but like do think that the Dinah and Scorcher discussion of like I've always been this way is important. I do think this is a character study of Scorcher, of a person who works hard but wants they to fit into boxes. But yeah, do you want to talk about the family or do you want to talk about Scorcher first?
You know what? I think what I found interesting was that you were in your original review that you felt
Hmm.
more connected to Dinah and Scorcher, like the Dinah Scorcher of it all, than the family, because I felt the opposite way, where I was less connected to Scorcher and Dinah, even though like I am able to now pick up on like she definitely like Tana French. When I say she, Tana French definitely likes to do this
Mirror.
mirroring of sorts, where whatever the detective has personally gone through or is currently going through is going to very much mirror a situation that has happened that they're trying to
Yeah.
solve a case for. Um, but I think it's interesting that you were more connected to Scorcher. Did you feel that way this read?
So this time around, no. I think when I originally read this, if I'm remembering correctly, and memories are not good, but I think I didn't. care much about the family because it felt like we didn't see very much, or when we did see stuff, like I kind of knew like, the sister's covering up for her or things like that. So it felt like everything was leading to like we're just so desperate to cover it up. I didn't care that much because it didn't feel like a mystery to me. Now, a woman a little bit older with a few more experiences under my belt, I'm like, why didn't I care about that? It's such a dynamic story, and you're watching people solve a tragedy. You're not watching people solve a murder. And I think the first time I read it, I very much read it as he's solving a murder instead of he is uncovering this tragic happening and this
Yeah.
desperate need to be okay. And I think I didn't like her, like the mom character. And so sorry, it's been a while since I read it. I can't remember her name. But I think I really didn't like her on my first read because I didn't really care about appearances. And I was like, well, why would you care so much? And now I know like there is a desperate need to be okay or do things a certain way. And I think I understand that desperation a little bit more this time around. And I really felt that the family was much more interesting this time around.
Yeah, I found the family really interesting. I found so the wife's it's the Spain family.
Yeah.
Just to refresh your memory, Pat and Jenny Spain
Yes,
are
Jenny.
the husband and wife, and then they have two children, uh, Jack and somebody.
Emma.
Um, Emma, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jack and Emma. But yeah, uh, I I think I was very much interested in them because I did kind of pick up, and maybe this is just something I'm more drawn to family dynamics. Like in the
Hmm.
last book, I was very much into all of the things going on with all of Frank's family,
Yeah.
where I kind of just like to read about drama like that. I don't know why. And I think this had enough of a lot going on for
Yeah.
me in terms of their family, whereas Scorcher does have a lot going on in his personal life, we learn, but it didn't seem like enough to like pull me out of wanting to
Hmm.
know more about the family that the case is focused on. But I do think maybe we should kind of start just by talking about Scorcher,
Yeah.
because he's honestly very interesting. He's someone who weirdly is kind of mentally healthy.
He's one of those people where it's like you've been through so much trauma, but like you're weirdly like
You're
evolved over
weirdly,
it.
yeah.
Like, I always bring it back to like this is such a weird comparison, but my dad is someone who like has been through a lot. And 1 year, like right after my mom died, I wanted to spend Christmas with my sisters very badly, but I knew he wouldn't okay spending Christmas away. And like one of my sisters was seeing a therapist, and the therapist was like, well, what if your sister said she was just going to see you? And she was like, my dad would stay at home. And she was like, well, would he be mad and would he throw a fit? And she was like, no, he would just be like, I made my decision, you made yours. And the therapist was like, that's weirdly mentally healthy. And like we were all sad and depressed. And like my dad was just very like evolved. And I do think
Yeah.
Scorcher has that energy of like, I've been through a lot, but I know who I am, and that's how it is.
So
Like,
this is a bad comparison, but do you remember the Office episode where Stanley has a heart attack in the office and it's like during a fake fire drill that Dwight
yes.
puts them through and everything? And so after that, Michael becomes obsessed with Stanley being well in the
Yeah.
office. And he says to him at one point, Stanley, what are you going to do if you're home alone and your heart quits? And he's like, I would die. And Michael says, and you're okay with that? And he says, I'm okay with the logic of it. And I think that that's very much vibes that I get. Like Stanley says it in the calmest way, where I
Hmm.
would be maybe more of a Michael Scott, where I'd be like, I'm not okay with this. I don't want to be home alone for this to happen. But Stanley is much more in the Scorcher side of
Yeah.
it, and probably like your dad too, where it's just like, I'm fine with it, and this is
We
how
all have
it happens.
choices. This is life, guys. I'm not gonna freak out about it. Uh, yeah, and I do think Scorcher is an interesting character on this read through because you're right, he is weirdly evolved and like
And also weirdly caring and understanding.
Yeah, but
that I wouldn't, but at the same time still like says things where I'm like, that's not appropriate to say.
well, he's someone who
But
cares, but he's not good at social interactions. Like he
yes.
wants to be the person who can like make you feel calm, but he also is someone who understands that he is not that person. So if he tried to, it would look
But for
forced.
certain people, he is that person.
Yeah.
He does provide security in terms of like his family, like his
Yeah.
sisters, very much find him as a safe space. Also, his partner,
Yeah.
Richie, like very much sees Scorcher as a safe person, a safe place. He feels connected to him very quickly, even though Scorcher is considered like this big detective that, has this reputation for being a tough guy, blah, 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 highest solve rate, all this. Richie becomes very connected to him quickly,
Hmm.
and that may be just a Richie being Richie, but also Scorcher
Richie,
does
the
have like a
worst detective
worst judge of
outside of
character ever.
Mr. Adam Ryan in book one.
Oh gosh.
Like, but yeah, he is that person for a lot of people, but it's something like I think it's interesting that in my first read through, I picked up on Scorcher needing to follow rules, but also knowing that he wasn't the most skilled person in the room, but he was the hardest worker in the room. Because
And also he's just incredibly self-aware and also
yeah,
just like has a lot of morals and ethics that he stands by. You know what I
yes.
mean? Like, and this, I think you and I are both like swooning a little bit because we're like, cops like this don't
Well,
exist.
it's also as you're describing him, I realize that Scorcher is the person who I'm drawn to in my real life. Like I very much love and we've talked about this where you talk about like Laura's talked about when during college people were always like quote unquote drawn to me, but I never want to talk to the person who everyone's drawn to in a room because I find
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of boring because everyone's arguing over who they want to be friends with. You know, like they're like, am
Uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
interesting enough for the most interesting person? And I'm like, you want to know who I want to talk to? The person in the corner who doesn't know anyone, because
Yeah.
you actually get to make this deeper connection with someone. And I do think that that is Scorcher, where it's like he doesn't want to insert himself into anything, but if you start getting to know him, he is an interesting person to know, and he does genuinely care, and you are going to make a genuine connection with him. But
I
people
think
don't
that
want
it's
that.
interesting that you and I are like both kind of self-inserting into this character
Yes.
because you're self-inserting to him in this way, and I'm self-inserting into him in the way where I'm like, people have the wrong read of him. They think that he's just like this tough, sucky guy, and actually, no, he deeply cares about people and has a
Hmm.
moral compass, and he's had to overcome a lot and all this. I'm like, oh man, we are both self-inserting here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like this character. I didn't
Yeah.
think I would. I said it many times in
I,
previous episodes. I
I
did not
said it.
care
I
about
said
him.
I care about this character going into the previous book, and I'd already
Yeah.
read the book. So like I
You
do
knew what
think it's
happened.
interesting. Yeah, I knew what happened and I still didn't care about him on my read. So I also think that that's the skill of Tana French, though. She really puts you
Yeah,
into the character you're reading, even if they piss you off, a la Cassie or Adam Ryan.
sure.
But like when we met Frank, we were like, I hate this guy. And then we met Frank and we were like, I love this guy. And then Scorcher, we're like, I find him boring. And then we're like, is this the most dynamic character we've read about? And do we see ourselves in this
He
man?
may be
Like,
the most ethical so far.
he is definitely the most ethical. Um,
I
yeah,
mean, I
like,
think you and I both had mad respect for him at the end of this book when
yes.
he decided to step down.
Yeah. Because he realized it was just not going to work out for him anymore and he didn't want to do this. And that's beautiful to be able to walk away from a situation. And of course, we see him in
Just
this
that
moment,
self-awareness,
but
like,
like, yeah.
what a treat. Like, loving
Also,
it.
like, the one thing I was frustrated with him though, and this is a question that leads us into the other family, so like we
Where
can
he's
pull
like,
back from it right away.
I gotta have somebody who wears makeup.
That sucked. Well, actually, I didn't mind that
You
because
didn't
like
mind that.
I don't mind. So here's the thing, like I like wearing makeup. If s- if my husband were ever like, "Oh God, you look ugly with makeup," I wouldn't like that. But if he's like, I appreciate that you like looking nice, I don't think that that's a necessarily bad thing. I think the way he
I
said
think
it
it's
was
the
the bad way.
context. I
Yes.
think the context in which people say things like that, because like you and I had a know of some people who, when they were single, would say things along the lines of, "Well, I can't date someone who's fat because I need someone
Yes.
who takes care of their body." And it's
Yes.
like, okay, so the implication is that people who are fat don't take care of their bodies, so they need to
Yes.
be starving themselves and at the gym
Mm.
99.9% of the time in order to meet societal body standards. But
It context is
yeah,
key because I've also like I don't know,
because
I was
that's not the
raised
context that Scorcher was saying that he likes to have a woman who likes to be with a
right.
woman who takes care of herself.
Yes. He said like I like it when a woman wears makeup and wants to like do her hair. And I'm like, I that to me, that's someone who's matching energy because Scorcher does those things too. He cares about
He
appearances.
cares about presentation and the way that you
Yes.
put your like the way that you appear to the world. He because he thinks that is a reflection of
Of
you.
yes. But I also don't think like and he is horribly fat phobic and that is where I'm
Yes.
like that's awful. But like if it's someone who's just like, yeah, I like someone who wears makeup, I'm like, okay. I was also raised by a woman who like she was a bigger woman. I'm a bigger woman. She was very upfront with me of like, hey, skinny men may not like you very often. And that's okay for you because do you want to be with someone who disrespects you like that? And that was always like the teaching method I was taught. And so
Sure.
like I kind of learned like, okay, it is okay for people to not want to date me, but I also have the right to not want to date them. And I think
Yes.
that it is the unmatched energy that is typically the problem of like, okay, you don't want to date me. I don't want to date you. Like, who cares? You know? And so the Scorcher fat phobia, but like Scorcher's off comment of like, I like pre
Scorcher's fat phobia, I think, exists inherently tied to classism, though.
yes. And that is very true. So
Because because we're referring to his interactions with the Gogans, which I think are his worst moments of the
yes.
entire book.
Yes.
And even his interaction with his sister Dinah, which is very poor at one point, is not as bad as his interactions with the Gogans. But I
Yes.
think that the interactions that he has with the Gogans not only are fatphobic, but are deeply classist
Hmm.
because they are people who are implied to be of lower income
Yes.
and lower education. Uh, so it's implied that that is the
Yeah.
case. And
No, I
Scorcher
agree.
very much says so by making comments about their intelligence and the way that they look and them being quote unquote slobby, etc. That the son is like doesn't look like he has any brains, that kind of thing.
And he like obviously is coded as like obsessed with video games and things like that. And like this book was made in 2012. I also don't think back then people were having a lot of discussions about this very often. I
Yeah,
think it
about
was a
class,
very
yeah.
or class and like classism tied to slovenly appearances or fat people because like
Yeah,
the thing about the Gogans is they are living in the same area that the Spains are. They are living across the street. They have the same home that they do. They have the same frustrations with the location that they do. But French decides to make like the primarily fat characters who live across the street slovenly, taking money under the table.
yeah.
Um, we don't really know how
Sneaky.
they afforded this house, but then like people down the road who are nice and kind, they're presentable, they're
Yeah,
blonde, they're skinny. And so I do think like it's a little bit of what the author chose to highlight. And
sure.
it just stinks that they put a lot of the frustrations on one family who happened to be fat. And it is the worst part because we're seeing it through Scorcher.
Yeah, I do think that the Gogans are unfortunately portrayed, and at the same time, it does very much fit the stereotypes that still exist today in
Yes.
regards to lower income families.
Yes. Which
And
also like lower income families look at the way we treat food and also that can
well, I was
help
gonna say
combat like yeah.
nobody's ready to have the discussion of why there are people who are lower income who are dealing with obesity at
Yeah.
different rates.
Yes.
And like we you and I can talk about this for a long time, but it it exists and there's all sorts of differences in the ways that people are able to access food and what food is available to lower income families and the time in terms of going and acquiring food, prepping food, the time that you have to spend at work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that can contribute to a person's size.
Yeah.
So, and the type of food, obviously, that you were able to access. So, and also just genetics. But yes, the Gauguin family is portrayed in a very fatphobic, also very classist way where
Yes.
they are looked down upon. And like you said, it is interesting when they are literally right next to their neighbors, the Spains, who meet societal standards and are not looked at in this way.
Hard agree. And it is Scorcher's worst timing. Like he's just
Yeah.
terrible with the Gokins. But usually he is someone who kind of sees things and he gets frustrated, which I also think is a very human thing that we don't get to see detectives do unless they're screaming at others. Um, but he has like frustrations that are more internal, and I do think that that's helpful to see with him. But
Yeah.
he is someone who cares about appearances. And I do keep going back to my review where I'm like, he likes putting things in boxes because I really do think that is so much of his character where he has faults. Because, like, that's the outcome where he's like, oh, I should have known Jenny had done it much earlier, but I didn't want to see it because I was seeing her husband. But he was also putting them into the box of like, they had to have been a perfect family because look at them. Like, he just saw this image of them and he was distracted by it.
I very much like that. So from the beginning, he makes the comment of like, oh, it's always like the most simple case. It's like cases always work out in the most simple way possible. Like that's how they always do. That's just the statistics of it all. It's usually going to go the way that makes the most sense. You're not
Hmm.
going to have these really convoluted plots. And it ends up being true. Like you asked me in the first episode when we got halfway through, who do you think did it? And I was like, well, I think maybe the husband, but that doesn't make sense because how could the
Hmm.
wife still be alive? And it's like, look, Laura, exactly right there, you're playing into it.
Yep.
But I do like that Scorcher is someone who, even though he has this knowledge of, I've done this for so long, it's always the most straightforward way. He still is willing to take all these steps and question even that,
Yeah.
where he's willing to take the time and be like, but is it more convoluted? Do I need to be giving people more benefit, or like more benefit of the doubt? And am I taking the time in this case that I need to be? Am I biased here? And
Yeah.
in this case specifically, he does have a lot of bias, like
Yes.
weird connections and biases too. So it's interesting to
Well,
see
and a
him deal with this.
bias
And
that
yeah,
we haven't even talked about, which is his dad, people thought murdered his mom. Like he's
yeah,
coming at this with a very specific bias of he's seeing this family in the place his mom died. And yes, he is very evolved, but I do think French almost does a bait and switch with us as readers where it's like, oh no, he's perfectly fine. But it's like he walked into this scenario and he kept telling everyone, well, it's usually the simplest answer. It's usually the simplest answer. But then he was like, but I don't want it to be the husband because that's what everyone thought happened with
yeah,
my family. And he never says that out loud, but I do think that that is an underlying fear of his, of like this history
yep.
repeating itself. And I think in the end, that's why he chooses to arrest Jenny because I know part of it like is kind of told in the story that it was for mental health help, but I don't know because like her family could have gotten her that type of help or tried to, but like he decided that this was the right way to go because he also wanted to help Pat and make sure that he wasn't seen as the person who did this, even though Pat was the person who was on the verge of a breakdown, and that is what kind of led Jenny into what happened. But
So
it's
it's
so
really
complicated.
multi-layered, right?
Yeah.
Because we have these people, the Spains, who are very concerned with image and who comes onto their case,
Hmm.
a detective who is also very concerned about image, who has dealt with issues surrounding his family's image for years, the way that people perceived his parents and now him and his sister.
Hmm.
And so it's interesting that he comes into that and then in a way does protect the image of the father in this
Yeah.
family, similar to how he felt that his father's image was ruined for a while
Yeah.
after the death of his mother, and how their family image was ruined for a while once people found out more about the situation. So, yeah, it's really multi-layered. But I do think, you know, that's one piece of it, but there are all of those, like I said, all those other those other layers because I do want to think that from what we learn about Scorcher and the way that he and his sister treat their younger sister Dinah, that they do seem to be people who care about mental health and getting people help that need
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And so I do think that that's an aspect of it. And I do think that he also is of the opinion of Richie, where it's like, what point does it make to send this woman to prison?
Yeah.
Like, her whole life is ruined. Let's do this route instead. So, yeah, there's a lot of different things going on. And I don't know that I think they can all be right. As far as takes on Scorcher and his reasoning for what he
Right.
does.
Yeah. And I do think that that is true, that there can be like a lot of right reasons. And I did struggle with sending this poor woman to jail after she suffered so much, but I think at the end of the day, he's doing the best he can with the tools he has. And
Yeah.
that is an interesting fact about this book, is that you can feel very torn about sending her to jail, or uh,
Yeah. And,
does she
and
have
at
a
the same
right to
time,
what? Yeah.
still thinking, this woman did unfortunately kill people, and
Yes.
there in this system needs to be justice for those people who were killed. Like, there were innocent children
Yes.
who died. So, yeah, that he's still trying to bring about justice in some way while not completely ruining this woman's life for the rest of her life. So, yeah, I do think that it's really complicated, and there's no like good way. There's never a good reason to, like, or I shouldn't say never a good reason, but there's never a good way to send someone to prison. Like,
No.
it always is a bad feeling. And yeah, but I do think that at least in this situation, it seems like Scorcher's trying to do his best in his career, in his job, to be the person that is trying to look out for all the people in this scenario, and he
Yeah.
kind of does it.
Yes. I do think that he does at the end of the day. Um, and yeah, I do think it's interesting with the mirror of the stories and Dinah, because I do think it also kind of lends itself to another layer of Jenny's character, where, and this is something I didn't notice on my first read through, because again, I was reading this as a murder mystery, but again, the scene with Dinah where she's like, I've always been this way, where like it fits into this of like what he needed to see with Jenny is she was always someone who put appearances first. And it was very important to have the family that she had. And when it started crumbling, she did not know how to deal with it because it had always been perfect. And so
Yeah,
she didn't have the tools she needed. And then she was always someone who was capable of making this decision. And I think that's an interesting discussion, especially with, even looking at the carbon monoxide leak and things like that. But there was always something inherent in her that felt desperate to make sure everything was okay. And we saw that through her relationship with Colin, where she cut him out of her life because she was like, you're just being negative. And like she had this drastic reaction because he wasn't fitting into the narrative that she wanted to see. And I do think that it's interesting with the Dinah character, where Dinah has to like kind of fight Scorcher on like, you have to stop thinking that suddenly something happened in my life that caused all of the bad things. Sometimes I'm capable of the bad things, or they were always there, and it just happened that the path I went down led me in this direction, and that can feel frustrating.
sure.
Yeah.
I think it's also like it's a hard scene
Yeah.
because she's admitting that to him, that she struggles with the way that her family perceives her and how they're always trying to like kind of put her under a microscope as to when did it happen? When was the
Mhm.
turning point here? And for her to, and I think a lot of people deal with this, especially if you're going through any kind of hardship, that you feel like there are times where you're trying to convey what you're going through and people can be listening and totally miss the mark.
Yeah.
And it very much feels like that's the situation with Dinah, where she's spent most of her life trying to explain herself and people are getting the wrong idea or have the wrong perception of her. And I think that's deeply sad that she has that frustration. But I also very much have a lot of empathy for Scorcher and his sister, his older sister, who are they're all dealing with this trauma of what happened in their family and thinking because of what happened, this may have been a catalyst for our sister's life and a lot of the things that she did. And I think that that could also be a thing too. Like, I'm not saying we have to like all have this exact moment where we know, and
Yeah.
Dinah says like that's not what happened, but it also could be. I mean, a lot of times people are in denial about the things that kind of trigger them or, like
I think it could
can
always be a
lead to more
trigger.
trauma.
And I think obviously like there are a million different things, and I'm the first person to say like there are certain paths I took that led me to who I am today. Um, but I think it's interesting, like it's a discussion of no one wants to blame something on one bad thing that happened to
No.
them. And I do think that there's a way of looking at this, like as, and this is obviously like we're both coming at this with different life experiences where I'm like, well, as an alcoholic, like I do think that there are other versions of myself that if I hadn't taken a certain path, I probably wouldn't have had the developed dependency that I did on alcohol to the point of like as much of an alcoholic as I was. But the alcoholism was always in there. There was no point to say like that I wasn't capable of doing this if I hadn't done all of these things. And I think that that's kind of the point with Dinah of like, and I
Sure.
think it's hard because Scorcher and his sister Jerry, they decided to take this on with their sister, and I think that that's beautiful and it's difficult. And I do love the way it's portrayed, where they never get mad at the other person for feeling frustrated or wanting to give up in the moment, because obviously that happens.
And
Um,
also, that's just like an immense act of love that the two of
yes,
them caring for their sister. Like, I'll just throw that out there. Like, even though they are dealing with a lot of frustrations and venting to each other and making mistakes, even,
yes,
they are both enacting a great act of love by
yes.
continuing to care for their sister.
Well, and like it's sad because you kind of figure out in the background like the dad is not helpful and he can't be there for them. And that means that they're also probably taking care of him. It's just not as much of a
Yep.
focus. Um, but I do think it is nice to read about like kind of showing that like yes, there is always something in there, and there are factors that put into play of where you are today, but it doesn't mean that those factors weren't always there. And I think that that is kind of a unique discussion of like nature versus nurture. I think it's kind of a both in many ways.
I think one of the things that uh, I struggle with the most about Dinah is the way that Scorcher sees her in almost this like pitiful way where when he talks about her, it's like he'll describe her as like someone who came out of an old painting, that she's just
Yeah.
beautiful. And it's almost, he almost describes her as like tragic, that he thinks her situation is tragic and that
Hmm.
it's one of those things where you almost get the vibes of a brother being like, oh, she's so beautiful, it's too bad that this had to happen, and I
Yes.
just feel bad for her,
And a
that's too
little bit
bad.
of older brother infantilization that also like
Yeah.
lends itself to mental health issues, that many people with mental health issues do get infantilized. But like Dinah is an adult person. Like she does
Hmm.
he talks about the relationships she's in. And yes, she picks poorly, but that doesn't mean she isn't in adult relationships. Like
And I think this kind of ties into what you're saying though about like her talking about like, yeah, it wasn't just this one thing that set off an entire chain of events of my life,
yeah.
but that she very much feels okay with decisions that she makes. She doesn't consider herself to be this tragedy and doesn't
Yes.
want to be pitied by her siblings.
Hmm.
And I think that when people continually pity you, it does have an effect on how you
Yeah.
view yourself and the way that you treat the people who treat you that way. And
Yeah.
that does come through too in the character.
Yes. Yeah. And it's hard because we are also seeing her during a mental health episode. Like that is what's happening.
Yeah,
Like he picks her up and she's talking about like feeling things on her skin and he like and that is a struggle. Like that's a struggle for a sibling to get through. He's doing the best he can with what he has. You know, he talks about how his work is set up so he can take care of her when he needs to, but it happens to be the one case where he's not allowed to. And so I
yeah,
do think that that's we're seeing Dinah at some of her worst, and because of that, like people get into their very specific habits to survive with this person. And I think that that makes sense, but it is interesting to see from the outside looking in of like, there seems to be more to Dinah that we're not seeing because this is what happens in this moment.
yeah. And I think it's really interesting to see like that against the portrayal of Jenny Spain, who we kind of learn just starts to unravel more and
Yes.
more as the her marital situation, her family situation becomes less perfect porcelain.
Yeah. Well, and even in the end, like it is so upsetting because like obviously we're both on carbon monoxide poisoning. We both agree that
That's our theory.
that's our theory. That's what we want it to be. Um, but even in the final moments, like it is just purely tragic that she thinks she's going insane because she is missing all these blocks of time because she is under this pressure cooker of being screwed over by a land development that's putting her family into debt and putting this stress on her body that like again it's like there's always the capability of things but like there are different things that happen to you that take you to where you're going to be and the tragedy of it is like there's all these different situational things happening to her and environmental factors happening and then she breaks because she sees something and she thinks I am literally breaking from reality. I don't know how to handle this anymore and that is
Yeah.
deeply sad.
Yeah.
It's
I'll
so
just throw this out like quickly though. The animal in the house, like that is another reason that I quickly got on board with the carbon monoxide theory because I was just like, this. And then the kids start seeing it. There's never really any ends that are tied up in terms of an animal being there, but the holes in the walls to try to find the animal, the fear over the animal and everything, and then what happens with poor Jenny and what she ends up doing is kind of what led me to that. But
yeah.
yeah, that's what led me to the gas leak situation is
Yeah.
just because of all of the family experiencing these unique visions and things like that.
Yeah. It's just so heartbreaking. And
It's
Jenny
very
is
heartbreaking.
an interesting character because we don't really get to see much of her. Like she's so careful about appearances, and then we don't really get to see her as a person, and that I think is also interesting.
It's
But
interesting at the end, like when we're finally starting to tie it up, Scorcher's starting to tie it up, that even at the end, she is doing her best to maintain this image and
mhm.
protect her husband's image too. And then also her friend, who was his name Connor? I can't remember.
I thought it was I called him Colin, but I think it's either Connor or Colin.
Okay, I'm not
Yeah,
remembering right now. But her friend who aids her in this, he, him he might be the weirdest part of the whole story because the like
he's just
coming into the
living in
house
their
and
house,
everything, like taking naps
eating
in their
their
bed,
food.
eating
Like,
their sandwiches, and then being like, "Oh, it was fine. I put all the cups away." And it's like, dude, they totally knew you were there, and then they were becoming more paranoid because they were
Connor,
dealing with a
you're
gas
right.
leak. So yeah, that was the weirdest part. But she even tries to like protect his image too, and he's very dedicated to protecting that family's image and everything. So yeah, very much a story about image and the way we see ourselves and trying to protect the perceptions that we give off.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
it is.
I think maybe Richie is the only one left to talk about of note.
Richie pissed me off.
Richie, what a dum dum.
What
What
a
a dum
dum
dum.
dum. I mean, Richie is an interesting character because he's kind of like what Frank Mackey could have been if it was a bad idea to get into the police force. Because he
I
does
don't
have a
think Frank
huge,
Mackey is this dumb, is
I
he?
know, but like he had a huge chip on his shoulder about like how he was perceived. But it is one of those, like, this is the problem of like, it's two sides of a different coin where like Scorcher cares so much about what everyone thinks of him, and he's so observant that he understands what's going on, and so he can kind of read the room and maneuver himself in that way. Richie felt like someone who like walked in, he was like, "You should accept me as I am,"
Like, I
but then
am
like,
wearing sweatpants and tennis shoes, and that should be fine
yeah,
at a professional workplace. And it's
and
like,
it's like
no, it
you're
is not.
a murder detective. Like there has to be some sort of like dress code, or like you should, like it just felt like he couldn't read the room, but then he was upset about it, and
He
yeah,
picks weird moments to be rebellious, but then also quickly falls in line with Scorcher.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because there are moments that he does give pushback to Scorcher, and there are tensions between the two of them. Usually, Scorcher wins out and is right because
yeah.
Richie is a dum dum, but he does pick weird moments to try and be rebellious. Um,
Like
yeah,
hiding
he's a weird.
evidence.
That's a bad moment. I will say
Yeah.
though, he does do a better job connecting with people than Scorcher does. And maybe that's why I was doing a little self-insert of myself into Scorcher because I'm like, Scorcher is misunderstood. People think he's a mean guy, but he actually cares about people. But because that's how I feel often. But yeah, Richie does a much better job with connecting with the people that they're talking to when they're working through this case, especially the Gogan family.
Yeah.
And he may have just like better people skills and do a little bit better job with interrogations at times, but not all the time because he doesn't always know the best like line of questioning. It's maybe he's just better at connecting with people on a more personal level than Scorcher is.
Yeah. And it also feels like I mean like obviously this sounds bad, but like because I do feel one of two ways of like, yes, Richie should be able to be himself and be successful in his career, but also if you're going to be a police detective in the murder squad, you have to understand like
How to
what
do your
your
job?
yes, and what your role is in your job. Like that's like I sometimes talk about this because I did move over to working in like a more soft skill thing, and my job is not to insert myself and give my opinion when I'm talking to people. My job is to sit back and hear what people need to say and what they need to ask for from me, which is information, and that is it. If I walked into work and I was like, nope, I'm going to tell you what you need to do here. You need to do this. You need to do this. I would not be very effective at my job. Like, and that's where I'm
Sure.
like, Richie, you can't just show up in sweatpants and tell people you're going to solve their family member's murder. Like, that doesn't work. They want to feel like they're in good hands. Like you have to actually think about that. That's why Frank Mackey isn't a murder detective because he didn't want to be one. And I do
Did
think it's
Richie come off as
interesting.
kind of abrasive to you? Because I feel like you're more annoyed with him than I am, where I have the take of just like, this is just a dum dum who is a rookie that doesn't know what he's doing.
I
And
actually liked him. I think I really,
okay.
really, really liked how I really, really, really disliked him once they blew up his character. Like hiding evidence and sleeping with a
Yeah.
woman who shows up at your house is insane behavior. Like that's wild and he should not have done it. And it was
Yeah.
so bad. Like it was just so
Well, and the
bad.
reasoning too, like the way that uh Scorcher just like lets him off the hook immediately, and I'm like, wow. Wow. Because I think he even like points out like, okay, so you thought it was an old friend of mine, so you immediately slept with her? Like weird.
Ye-
Okay.
yes. I don't understand. I don't like it. So wild. Just wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then just like the decision to hide evidence, terrible. Like these are the types of things that should have gotten him immediately canned. And
Well, and again, like, yes, I feel some type of way about like this poor woman has to live the rest of her life, like getting the help she needs, yes, but like her entire family is gone. That is devastating, and she's not going to have a good
yeah,
life after this. There are going to be people who find out about this who will judge her for the rest of her life. That is
yes,
tragic, and it is awful. And I feel for her on a personal level. Richie was willing to let her husband take the blame. Like he was kind
yeah,
of like, as long as Connor and Jenny get off, we could let this man like his entire life be blown to pieces. And it's like, guess what? That's still ruining his wife's life in a way. Like she is
yep,
still going to be the wife of a murderer and also and he's like, well, she's going to commit suicide. And it's like, then her family is affected. Like
yep,
you are looking at things on such a very specific minimal level on what you think you can live with. And that's not
yeah,
how it works.
yeah. And that's why I feel like the way that Scorcher handles it seems much more satisfying because, like I said, like there is still justice brought about, even though like it's one of those things where it's like the truth is often very difficult to reveal. And this is like one of those moments where that's proven, where
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, the truth is really hard to get down to, but it ends up being better to know the truth than it
Yeah.
is to live with this lie.
I feel like justice doesn't necessarily get served in a way other than like because I feel some type of way about punishment, but it does help that I know like she's going to get
I
mental
do
health help.
too.
Like
I mean, I mentioned that
yeah.
previously. Like, it never feels good to have a woman or any person go to prison,
Yeah.
but it does. If you're in that career, what do you do? You have
Right.
to,
You have to do your job. I am not a
yeah.
police
Like I said, there
officer.
was innocent children who died, and some kind of justice unfortunately had to happen. Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, I just scrolled to someone's review who said, "To me, the 100% spectrum of life is divided up between two tiny slivers of white and black and a great mass of 99.999% between a wall of gray, lighter on one end and darker on the other." And I was like, "That's the problem. It's like we're in such a giant gray mass right
Yeah.
now." So,
Yeah. That
yeah,
that's like I think we're basically going around in circles too with some of this conversation about like what happens to Jenny, where it's like
yeah,
there's not I think we both feel icky about it. We don't want her to be incarcerated because it's like her life is ruined no matter what happens to
yeah,
her. But it's just it's too many things happening, and it's a fictional story. There's no right answer. So
yeah,
it's incredibly gray, like that
yeah. I do.
person wrote in their review.
Scorcher kind of was like a black and white guy, and then he kind of hit his gray, and he was like, I
We
can't do
thought
this."
he was a
So
black and white guy, but he
yeah,
was gray all along.
he was gray all along. Well, oh, and the one other thing I want to talk about is sometimes I think Tana French gives women a bad edit. This is just a random note, but Jenny's sister is talking about all of their friend group, and a huge part of this is the
Yeah,
2008,
that
the
one
way
friend
money
is
is traded.
despicable.
What was that? I don't know why she chose to do that, but it really, really got like stuck in my craw, Laura, because we have all of these male characters where it's like, and again, this is a huge part of Jenny was like, it's 2008, like 2008,
Where like
2012
Connor's a
area.
bastion of goodness who's sneaking in, eating cold lunch meat sandwiches,
Right.
and leaving
And
cute
he's
little
just
pins to make you feel better, and
a
he's
quote
fine.
unquote good guy who helped stab Jenny. But like you have him, you have these two guys who were definitely into the rich life, but quote unquote were definitely going to grow out of it. And then you just have this one woman sitting out in the middle of nowhere who's like, I don't want my fiance to meet you. And I was like, between that and Mrs. Gogan, what's the deal? Like, what's
Yeah.
happening? It was not a good edit. It did annoy, like that portion of the novel where she was like, she's a terrible person, but the other two will just grow out of it. I was like, let's not have this in our books. Either they're all terrible or one of them is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. That's just
The,
my
no,
final
you're right.
wrap up thought.
And honestly, I can't remember. like honestly, Dinah doesn't get the best edit either.
No.
Neither does Jenny's sister.
Twice
So
it is mentioned that Dinah is mad as a bag of cats. That is the
yeah,
line, and they say it two times.
yeah,
So,
not a fan of that.
not a fan
Uh,
of that. Yeah.
Also, like I said, I don't feel like Jenny's sister always has the best take either. Like she kind of comes
Like
off poorly at times too. So
and
there
Scorcher's
is an
sister,
interesting
the other
quit
sister is
punching
like
down Tana French.
is like only good because she's mommy, but she's also boring. So like yeah, the women in this book were a little bit much for me, but it is supposed to be a book about a family annihilator who is a woman. So
Yeah,
uh, yeah, the mirroring means that you have to look at women a little bit more, but I did not
yeah.
care for some of that. So that's my final wrap up thought.
But Jaden, no notes.
Oh, Jaden.
Playing his video games and making copies of keys for
Honestly,
random strangers.
I felt
No
bad for that
notes.
child. That poor child.
So do I.
Poor Jaden.
He's
No
got it
notes.
rough.
He's got a rough. Just let him play his murder games. Like, he's just tattling
He
on his
just
mommy.
wants to play video games. Leave him be.
All right. Well, Laura, that brings us to the end of our journey with Scorcher.
Whew.
I know we
Will the
will.
next one be as much of a roller coaster emotionally? Yes.
Laura, could I give you a small look into the next book? Do you want any spoilers or do you want to be
Just tell
surprised?
me who the detective is and
So the detective is Frank Mackey's lackey from the last book.
okay. The
And
one he was feeding information to about this case. Okay.
yes, and I told you Frank Mackey's back, baby. So we're
Good.
the gang's back together again.
Good.
And I
Is
mean many of the gang is back together again. So
oh my. I- If Adam Ryan is in this, I will throw
oh
up.
God, no, Adam Ryan's gone. I
Oh,
didn't mean
good.
I can't wait for this next book because if I remember correctly, it's a weird one. It's
Oh
another like,
no.
how did we get here? What's happening? And I honestly do not remember who the murderer is in the next
Oh
book.
yay. Okay.
So,
Interesting
uh,
development.
so I don't know why I thought this one was my least favorite. I feel like the next one is a wild ride too, and it didn't stick in my mind at all. So that doesn't speak well to it in my mind. That where it's like, yes, uh, a silent place, isn't that what it's called?
I'm not sure what it's called
Uh,
even, but the
we
secret place is
the
what it's called.
secret place. Um, yes, the secret
Lots of
place.
places, so many
And
places.
I rated this one 3 stars. I actually rated the last one four
Ooh.
stars, so maybe I liked this one less. And I have a review for this one too, everyone.
Well,
So
I will
looking
be
forward to
interested to hear
that.
that in a few weeks.
Um, I'm so sorry, I'm just laughing at one of my lines. I felt like the last chapter was a bit on the nose, and I thought it could be 50% shorter.
This does not bode well.
Okay, well, join us next week as we cover our live show, hopefully. I keep caveating that
Yay.
because we will be recording live for the first time ever.
Pending no technical difficulties.
We are real nervous about the technical difficulties, everyone, but we're very excited for the show. It would have already happened by the time you're listening to this. But thank you to Deadbird Brewing for hosting us. We really appreciate it. And we hope you all had a good time to anyone who came out. It should be good. We will have bookmarks there and such. So, thank you for all of that. And if you're interested, if you could please rate, review, and subscribe, that is a great way to bring other people to the channel. And
Yeah,
if you're
get them in the
even
mix.
more interested, please join our Patreon. We right now have 2 different levels. There's $1, just kind of giving us support. You get printouts of our, or you get printable versions of our bookmarks on there and access to our Patreon level Discord. And then if you do $3 a month, you get a bonus episode a month. Right now, we are covering the Dresden Files TV series. So looking
Yeah,
forward to more of that.
baby.
But join us over there if you would be so kind to support the show, help keep the doors open, and all that jazz. We'd love to see more people over there. And if you want to just follow along with us, you can follow us at OWWR Pod on Instagram, Blue Sky, and a little bit less on TikTok just because we're not really sure what we're doing over there. But you can also
Go
join
over to
our
YouTube.
or YouTube. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. We're getting more subscribers over there, and it's awesome. And, check us out on Discord. You can join us and come chat with us over there. And we have a lot of different places you can join, and we're happy and we want to talk with you. And then after the live show, you will have to join us for the secret place, the first half of it. So
Yep.
we won't get
Lots
to
of
the
secrets and places.
lots of secrets and whodunits. So, all
Yep.
right.
And we
Well,
won't tell you where the place is, but it's secret.
it's a secret place, just so you know. Oh, that
There's a
kind of brings me
secret
back.
about something, and it's a place.
I think I kind of remember who the murderer is now, but we'll see.
We gotta stop.
We gotta stop. No spoilers.
Thanks for listening, friends. We gotta go before Hannah spoils this whole book.
Bye.
Bye.